Hello and welcome back to Advanced Concepts 2. Now, the title card says that this is Briar, but because of how this level is laid out, we do actually have to get out of here first. I mean, I could just start over, but I'm not going to do that. So, at the end of the last part, I was a little bit frustrated with this room. I've actually ended up going to the Hints and Solutions board. I probably didn't need to because it turned out I basically had the solution. But I was just overlooking one key detail. So, yeah, I wanted to see if it was about building a more efficient maze, and it was confirmed that that was not, in fact, what to do. Incidentally, the Hint and Solution board is a fantastic place to go because they don't just tell you the answer right away. They'll just kind of lay out a few little hints or obvious things that you might have overlooked. So in this case, the thing that I overlooked was that the potions are a brain barrier for the roach, which means that I had actually done something that probably would have worked in the previous episode, but I just didn't play it out far enough. So I'm just going to quickly set that up. This should look familiar. Right, so what we've done here. So the problem I was having was that I know I had to be not hasted when I get through here. And so I was grabbing this and having the roach come to me. But if I do this, it doesn't have a brain path to me. And that allows me to start the race from up here, which is all that we need. This should give us enough time, I hope. Except that it needs to be not hasted. There we go. So we'll see if this is efficient enough or if I have to... Oh, barely made it. Okay. And there we go. That kills you, then we just... I should not have killed that brain. Okay. We will not kill the brain until you get into position. Whoops. And then we will... But I like it when monsters hunt me down. Is that a response to something else, I guess? But anyway, that should let us finally finish the speed kills entry. We survived the speed kills level and return to the hub, and that places us here, where we can solve this room where we need to take the potion to deal with this, but not until after the adder has gotten through. We already kind of looked at this in the previous part. Oops, let's just grab that. Maybe I want to wait a turn there so that I can... Well, it doesn't matter, does it? I don't know. Anyway, easy enough to deal with. Technically it's faster to exit this way, so I will. And... yeah. Alright, there we are. So that takes us down here, where we have Old Exit. Yeah, we won't be going there for a while. But this gives us a sense of the scale of this place. It looks like it's just going to be 6, which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 more entries, maybe 4, because it looks like post-mastery there. Oh boy. So we have 4 more entries, it looks like. And I did just play through the... I did start a new playthrough in the hub to figure out what the next entry was going to be, so that I knew what to make for the title card. So I did check this out to see what Briars are, but I don't know what the other elements are still going forward. All right, so what do we got here? We got some sort of Briar shenanigan. Stepping on this will open up the pits, which will make the Briar grow more slowly. What do I actually have to do to solve this room? I have to just have to hit one of these conquer tokens and leave, right? Are these on arrows? No. Oh, there's a spider here. Okay. Well, that would explain it. So I was like, you know, I can just leave, but no. So I hit this. Briar starts growing. I die because the spider wasn't killed fast enough. Okay, so I need to first of all, I need to hit both of these. Okay, demonstrating that Briar doesn't grow on hot tiles. Excellent. I mean, is there any reason I wouldn't want to hit these twice? That was very silly. I mean, I could just do this, right? Is there any particular reason I wouldn't want to do that? Yeah, 9. They're all connected. There's a really weird gimmick, actually, with those, which I wonder if that'll show off in the entry. If it doesn't, I might actually have to create a few things of a few rooms of my own just to show off some extra Briar stuff, because I did a lot of work with Briar for several reasons. Yeah, going in here, you know, I could just hit those individually instead of hitting the bomb. Do I want? There's no red doors. I don't know why I wouldn't do that. Oh, there are red doors. They're under these obstacles for some reason. Alright, so if I do that... Yeah, green doors open at the end of the turn, or close, in this case, at the end of the turn. So nothing we can do with any of that. Okay. So let's go into the Briar area. Again by Boy Blue, okay. Yeah, and the reason I spent so much time working with Briar is because of the Briar Seed custom element that I'm sure everyone else is sick of seeing me work with, but that is something I did for the custom elements contest, and then later also for some stuff that I ended up doing with the Entry Point project. I ended up discovering some really weird Briar interactions, so I'll be showing off some of that stuff if it isn't shown in here. Anyway, Briars. Fast-growing and deadly, destroying everything in their path. Buther roughly knew that pits slowed them down and more roots sped them up, but how this worked precisely was not clear to him, and anything more advanced was a complete mystery. He entered the Briar Annex, looking for enlightenment. Now, Briar is one of those elements that I think a lot of people don't like. Oh, this is interesting. Just going to show off that it grows over stairs. That's a really cool way of doing this. Oh, and there's a conquer token, so I don't even have to worry about being efficient here. I can just leave. What do these signs say? Part 2. Details of Briar growth, connections, and removal. Okay, well, that's where the fancy stuff would be. Briar fundamentals. Okay, well, what's to the south? Demonstrations and challenges. Okay. Let's start with the fundamentals. Okay. Yeah, place decoys, do light fuses. So we're just going to blow up some Briar. For some reason we decided we were going to start the room like that. Okay. Briar is this green tangly stuff. Very useful scroll. It has 3 visible different body parts. This is mature Briar. The brownish form is called immature Briar. For technical reasons, we can't leave immature Briar lying around, so when necessary, we'll generate it when you enter the room. Really? For technical reasons, you can place Briar growth in the editor, but I get what they're saying. I think I know what they'll go into with that. The issue there is that Briar that grows over withered Briar connects to it normally, but if it grows onto Briar growth that was pre-placed, it just eats it. It just overwrites it instead of merging with it. It's kind of weird. But that is an issue with how it was coded, I guess. The bright green pinwheels are Briar roots. Sometimes we'll just call them roots. A root causes a new briar to grow around it. The new briar destroys most every object that gets in its way. Sure does. It'll destroy the potions, it'll destroy the mirrors. It even destroys orbs without activating them, and bombs without exploding them. There's a weird thing about it. Well, okay, I'll let it finish here first, then I'll talk about that. It doesn't destroy pressure plates, but grows over and activates them. Yep, cuts all the tar stuff. It even eats through lights. Oh, wow, okay. I never realized that lights were different than obstacles, but now I know. That is one difference between a light and an obstacle, is that Briar will eat it. It eats tokens. I wonder if I'm sure we're going to get the Conquer token in interaction with the Briar at some point. So Briar, the thing I was going to say is that the powder kegs, which it's not going to talk about in this game because those came out in DROD 5, and this is a DROD 3 hold. Powder kegs, Briar will cause the keg to ignite, explode, which will destroy the Briar that grew into it. Whereas with bombs, it just kind of eats through it without it going off. I don't know why they decided to do that, but I guess it makes for interesting puzzle potential, I suppose. Flawlessly consistent and all that. Yeah, it does not destroy pressure plates, but it does push them down. It destroys most every kind of monster or other creature, even those that are invulnerable to swords. So let's look again and see it go. Okay, that was the Goblin, Brain, Golem, and Brooch, and even takes out the corpse. That includes you, of course. Yeah, if I wait here, I will die. Yeah, so we can kill Webbas. Okay, just make ourselves safe. Takes out the giants, no problem. Don't need to keep looking at that. Serpents of all types are the only exceptions. They are invulnerable to it. Yes, serpents, and of course Gentrii, which are not serpents, but also didn't exist back in DROD 3. Okay, well... Briar growth is blocked by all types of walls, closed doors, and ordinary obstacles. Yeah. So obstacles being different than lights. Briar can survive on hot tile, but it won't actively grow onto it. It's kind of weird. It almost feels like it's a bug that they let you do that, put it in the editor. Pits block Briar growth and also interfere with it. More on this later. Briar grows onto all types of floor, open doors, water, and stairs. Yep, I've seen that. It grows over tunnels, making them unusable. Okay, so you can see over here. I'm just gonna actually just wait here. Oh, it's the same thing. I wonder what that note was talking about then. Because you can see it's not connecting the Briar growth, right? It's just overwriting it. But it did connect to the withered Briar. And there's some really cool interactions you can do with that kind of stuff. Also, yes, tunnel is not usable. Briar can't grow against a force arrow. But if it already extends past a force arrow, it can continue to grow. Unlike force arrows, orthosquares have no effect on it. Alright. Yeah, that was not very efficient in the end. Briar blocks your path in the path of all monsters. It's invulnerable to swords. Pickaxe didn't exist yet, but that's something you can use to cut it. Briar does not block an Omplix beam or an Evil Eye's vision. Briar is a brain-visible obstacle, so brain monsters can find their way around it. Oh, I have to actually kill that. Oh, whoops. I have to actually kill this thing. Alright, the scroll. The scroll is an obstacle the brain can't figure out how to get past. That's why the Evil Eye was stuck there. This shortcut must first be unlocked from the other side. Oh, it's not letting me go. Okay, that's going to be a snake lock. Okay. You should not think of Briar as a monster. It is just a part of the background environment. It is unaffected by invisibility, brains, decoys, or stalwarts. Yeah. You do not have to remove Briar in order to open green doors. If you do need to remove Briar, there are only a few ways to do it. Briar can be destroyed by dropping it into a pit. Yep. But remember, it thrives in water. Sure does. Kind of regret being invisible now. This is kind of annoying. Briar can be destroyed by closing any type of door on top of it. Yep. In fact, you'll often see Briar roots being placed on open room cleared gates, like the green doors, so that when you clear a room, the Briar stops growing because the roots will be destroyed. It's a thing that gets used a decent amount, I would say. Briar is destroyed by the explosion from a bomb or Fagundo. Yes, and Fagundos and Briar are a combination that a lot of people really don't like. Builders can remove Briar, though you may not have much control over that. Yeah. Use what you know about Briar to solve this puzzle. Let's see, I can blow up the Briar with the Fagundo. And then... I need something to go in there. That's going to have to be the Fagundo, isn't it? No, it could be the Evil Eye. Oh, I'm going to have to use the Briar growth to destroy the orb so that the Evil Eye can see me. Okay. I see how it is. Do I want to stop it from expanding out in this direction? Oh, if I do that, it's going to drop. Yeah, because there's this platform. Interesting. Okay, well, I guess what we're going to do then... Do I need to hit this orb? I do. Is this too risky? Cut it off. Kills you. Fagundo can finish things off. What does this scroll say? Did I even read it? Too bad that Evil Eye can't see through orbs. Each Briar root tries to change one square of immature Briar into mature Briar on every turn. If a root can't find an appropriate square of immature Briar, it grows a new layer of immature Briar, a process called expansion, then tries again, all in the same turn. In part 2, we'll explain this in more detail. Okay? When a root turns a square of immature Briar into mature Briar, we say that it matures the square. We apologize for using mature as a transitive verb. I think that's fine. A root always matures the square of immature Briar that is nearest to itself, as measured by a straight line distance from the center of one square to the center of the other. Yeah. Briar root turn order puzzles could theoretically be a thing. I've fortunately never seen one. In case of a tie, it selects the westernmost square. If there's still a tie, it selects the northernmost square. Yeah, so westernmost, then it's going to be northernmost. South, of course, here, and then it's going to be the diagonals. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Expand. On the turn that it expands, it also matures one pile of Briar on the same turn as it expands, unless it expanded into a puff, in which case it won't. Another weird exception. Try clicking your mouse on the roots in this room. You'll get a message telling the number of immature Briar squares connected to the root. Okay, so 10. Yeah, 9, 8, 7, 6. Yeah, you can count like that. Tell you. You can also click on the Briar to see it'll highlight all the immature Briar root, or sorry, all the immature Briar connected to the root. If you click on that. If there are multiple connected roots, it will tell you how many there are, and the predicted number of save turns remaining before the Briar expands. For example, if the count is 5, the Briar will expand in 6 turns. Yeah, we can see here it's going to expand immediately because there's nothing around it, but it's blocked in. Clicking on a non-root Briar square will highlight the immature Briar connected to it, provided there's also a root connected to it. Yes. Alright. Remember that it's the straight line distance that determines which square matters, not the distance through the Briar. Right, so the reason what that's saying is that we're going to start maturing over here before we're going to mature up here. Yeah. Yeah. First round was there, second round was here, then one here and one here. I wonder if we could calculate which of these was going first, given that. Let's not. Briar roots have an intrinsic order of movement amongst themselves. Roots that are farther north move first. Ties are broken in favor of the western root. Okay, so it'll just tell me. That's nice. In the exhibits to the south, the root with higher priority will mature the last of the immature Briar before the second expansion, leaving the lower priority root to mature a square after the expansion. By looking at which square matured last, you can deduce which root had lower priority. Oh boy, let's go. So, according to the order that it said here, the north root should act first, right? So it will expand like this. Then this one will expand... Oh, so this one will expand like this. And then this one will expand like this, leaving these corners free. I was wrong. Oh, right, because it... Right, so what's happening here is this is expanding, and then this is also expanding, but because this is Briar growth, it just eats into it. It doesn't connect to it right away. And then we have growth, growth. Okay, so what's going to happen here is... If you go first, which I think you are... oh, okay, well the grass is telling me the answer here. If you go first, you expand, and then you grow everything and clear that. Otherwise, you'd clear this one, right? Yeah, so that's the remaining Briar. Okay, let's look at the second exhibit here. Oh, I see. This is what kills all the Briar. So again, you grow first. You grow first, then you grow... Yeah. Wait. Right, because you're maturing that tile, and then you mature that tile. Now on the next one, you mature, and then you're gonna... Yeah. You're gonna mature that tile. Sure. Okay, last one to look at here. We both expanded. They both expand, of course, to the west first. So you're gonna do this one and that one. And you're gonna do these two. Down here and here. Then you're gonna do that, and you're going to do that. Yep, okay. Snake lock has been cleared. Multiple roots connected together cause Briar to grow multiple squares per turn on average. If the path is sufficiently narrow, Briar can advance faster than any monster or any delver. Alright, so here we're going to see monsters move before the Briar. Although Briar can advance multiple times in a single turn, it is so fast that the pressure plates it grows onto don't activate until all Briar activity for all roots in the room has completed. Okay, so what that's saying is... What is that saying? That's saying that if Briar grows onto a pressure plate that would kill other Briar, that it's not going to stop that other Briar from still growing on that turn, basically. You might think the door will close as soon as the Briar reaches the pressure plate. The Briar gets to finish its turn first, allowing it to grow 4 more times. Right, because you go first, grow it, but then the other 4 will all grow as well. Okay. The same goes for black or green doors that may be closed as a result of the Briar's growth. As a result of the Briar's growth. Okay, we hit this to open you. Have I actually got a puzzle here I'm supposed to be doing something with? No, I think it's fine. This is in clear contrast to monsters. When a monster steps onto a pressure plate, the plate immediately activates before any other monsters move. I see. Okay, that's the distinction that's being built here. Because the roach moves before the seep. Yep, so roach steps here and the seep dies instantly before it can move off of the door. If multiple pressure plates are pressed by Briar on the same turn, you might wonder what order they're activated in. Oh no, I don't want to think about that. That depends more on the properties of pressure plates than on Briar, so we're not going to address that topic here. Okay. I don't even want to think about it. A root's real goal is to create exactly 1 new square of mature Briar on every turn. If any new immature Briar is also created, that is merely a side effect. As a consequence of this, the time it takes a root to fill a region with mature Briar does not depend on the position of the root, or the shape of the region. Only the number of squares in the region matters. We're assuming that no pits or other complications are involved. So the purpose of this is to show that it doesn't matter what order they're grown in, they still happen at the same time. Yeah. In each arena to the east, the Briar has 46 squares available to it before it hits the pressure plate. If you break all of the crumbly walls, it will have 65 squares available. How many crumbly walls should you break? Does it matter which ones? I'm going to say no to the second question, based on what we've already learned. So what are we doing here? We have 2 separate... Okay, we have 2 separate puzzles here. So 46 squares available before it hits the pressure plate. So we need this to be a multiple of both 4 and 5. Is that what I'm seeing? I think that's what I'm seeing. So I think we want 65. Sorry, 60. Because we need a multiple of 5 to get in here and a multiple of 4 to get in here. 60 is the first number that's a multiple of both of those things. Yeah. So 60, that means we have to leave 5. That's easy enough. Let's just... do that. See if that works. Good, it worked for the 5. Works for the 4. Okay, got it. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which space we leave, because it just needs to expand. Okay, cool. In case you did the room by trial and error, nope. The point is that the Briar needs to fill the arena in a whole number of turns, whether it consumes 4 squares per turn or 5. The only available number of squares divisible by both 4 and 5 is 60. Math. It makes no difference which walls you break, so long as you leave 5 of them. However, if this was a differently set up room where you didn't have enough leverage for the mimics, then which walls you break could be an issue because you need to get the mimic back into position, which could be an interesting puzzle. Interesting thing to do with the Briar. Hits slow down or stop Briar growth in 2 ways. Sure do. First, Briar that's orthogonally adjacent to a pit does not grow in any diagonal direction. For that reason, this Briar will not grow onto the grassy squares in this exhibit. It will grow over the trapdoor squares, but only because they are adjacent to a different square of Briar that's not affected by the pit. Alright, let's just see what happens. Yep. There was Briar here, so it got to grow. But here, this Briar only grows orthogonally, not diagonally. This one grows orthogonally to touch that. Alright, incidentally, Puff is also... Fluff is the same as Pits in this regard. Briar next to Fluff will also only grow orthogonally. This root is trapped and unable to grow. Really? I mean, we could release it, but we did. But yes, no, it is trapped because it doesn't move it doesn't expand diagonally as long as it's adjacent to a pit. Second, after Briar expands, each square of it except roots that is orthogonally adjacent to a pit changes into immature Briar. Roots will then have to spend time maturing those squares before the Briar can expand again. Yeah. Notice that an obstacle or force arrow on a pit does not change the pit's effect on Briar. Interesting. Briar is sneaky that way, and sometimes ignore force arrows. There are 2 trapdoors you can drop, which will make the Briar take longer to grow to the east than to the west. Find both of them. Okay, so what this is telling me is that if I rotate 3 times, I get stuck. 1, 2. 2 releases that, that's cool. But if we do a third one, then we get stuck. Okay, yeah, confirmed. So we need to... Yeah, we need to kill the... we need to kill both of these enemies, which means we need it to grow over the tar. But we also need it to grow... to the golem first, and it's the only way we can kill the golem, and when it breaks the tar, then it's going to stop the root growing, we have to kill everything. Okay. So what I have to do here is find out how to make this slower. So here, it's going to grow diagonally and grow diagonally. And I guess I need to stop it from growing diagonally. So to do that, it seems to me I would do this. Because... nope, I'm off. Do this one. Because in here, it'll only grow orthogonally because of this. Likewise, this would be our second one here. And that way... oh right, I couldn't drop that because that had a token on it before. Dropping this one will make it so that here it won't expand diagonally there as well. And then we just have to get ready to kill the roach. Yep. I'll slow down a little bit here. So, you can see here it's not going to expand diagonally. And then grow one more time, and it'll kill the golem. And let us kill everything else. Alright, we hit a conquer token, so we don't have to worry about turn token, our turn count here. This was what? Details of Briar growth, connections, and removal. Alright, notice this section describes implementation-specific cosmetic details. If you're from the future, your DROD game might depict Briars differently than described here, even if they behave exactly the same. If these lights are not glowing green, we recommend turning on alpha blending for the next room. Okay, well they are glowing green. That's curious. What could this possibly mean? At any given time, each briar root controls a patch of briar connected to it. To the north are 2 briar patches, which we've tinted red and blue. Note that multiple roots can jointly control the same patch. To the northeast, there is a disconnected bit of briar, but we don't consider it to be an actual briar patch. It's just stagnant briar. Yep. As briar patches grow, they may merge. The patches above will merge into a single patch, arbitrarily tinted blue. Okay, so they changed the lighting. Cool. Stagnant briar can be incorporated into a growing briar patch. And then it grows blue. Glows blue as it grows as well. Only mature stagnant briar can be reintegrated into a briar patch. Immature stagnant briar is just an inert object that has no effect on briar growth. No matter what, it can never mature or become reconnected to a root. It may often look like it became reconnected to a root, but what really happened was that it was destroyed and replaced with new immature briar. So we've done this before, yeah. See, it's not connecting. Consider gel, or any type of tar stuff, for a moment. Gel either exists on a square, or it does not. Okay. Its state is completely determined by which squares it exists on. Its behavior never depends on any extra information. If you know which squares it exists on, you can always predict how it will behave. And you're going to tell me that briar is not that, right? Which is unfortunate. Well, briar roots have turn order, I suppose. I may not look like it, but stagnant briar has the same property. Oh, good. Some squares contain mature briar, and some contain immature briar. And that's all there is to it. Doesn't matter if stagnant briar squares look like they're connected to other squares, that's purely cosmetic. In effect, every stagnant briar square is always disconnected from every other briar square. Okay, there is actually an edge case where you can look at a patch of briar and not know whether or not the briar is connected. I guess I'm going to have to bust out the editor and show that off at the end of this entry. Because it looks like that's not going to be covered here. But briar that is connected to a root, most definitely it does not have that property. You cannot predict how... Oh wait, never mind. Okay. Briar connected to a root. Yeah, never mind. Maybe it is covering it. You cannot predict how it will behave simply by knowing which squares contain what type of briar. For example, for the next few moves, there will be 2 independent briar patches to the west, even though they occupy adjacent squares. Right. And the consequence of that is that this is going to overwrite those. With its own withered briar. Okay, stuff is happening, stuff is growing. Look at the 2 briar configurations immediately to the south. All corresponding squares contain the same type of briar. Yet they will not grow in the same way. The gap you see in the south briar is significant. I see. Briar growth versus briar growth. But yes, this is significant. Because here, this is going to mature, but this one is going to grow instead. Yeah. It gets worse. Oh, yes it does. Switching to a diagonal configuration does not change briar growth in this case. Okay, so we're gonna go like that. Yeah, so now here. Is it connected? Or isn't it connected? Well, it's yeah, it's impossible to tell, right? But if we were watching it and paying attention, it's going to be the same situation here. So it's going to, this one will grow on the next turn, going here and here, which is then going to turn briar growth. So this will mature, whereas this one is just going to mature that. Yeah, yeah. So we get the growth here. Even though it looks the same, we get growth here, but not here. Diagonal Briar connections are invisible. You can't tell just by looking whether they are present or not, but that doesn't mean they aren't important. Yay. We know this is complicated, but if you want to be able to predict Briar growth, particularly when some patches will expand more than once per turn, there is no shortcut. Sorry. Briar growth activity occurs at a designated time during each turn if it is indivisible. No non-Briar events occur in the room while Briars are growing. Monsters always move before Briar grows. Each turn involves one or more cycles. A cycle is represented by the path in this room. Okay. Each cycle consists of 3 phases, represented by the segments of the path. We'll name the phases as follows: maturation, expansion, and mergers. In each phase, not just each cycle, all roots potentially get a chance to act, in the order governed by their intrinsic movement order. Are you sure you want to skip this important information? No. We'll read it. At the beginning of each turn, all roots are classified as active. In the maturation phase, each still active root gets a chance to mature 1 square of Briar in its patch. Any root that is able to mature a square will do so, and then become inactive for the remainder of this turn. If a root was unable to mature a square of immature Briar because there were none in its patch, it remains active, and will get a chance to act in future patches, or in future phases. Okay. If no roots are still active, Briar activity stops for this turn. It would bring us to here. End of turn. Oh, I see what the doors are doing now. It says mature, expand, and merge using the doors. Okay. In the expansion phase, every root that is still active tries to expand its patch. If, when a root's turn to expand arrives, there is any immature Briar in its patch, then it will not be able to expand during the cycle, but it will remain active and could potentially expand in the next cycle. How could there be immature Briar in the patch at this point? A particular root must have expanded this patch earlier in this phase. Yeah. Right, that makes sense. To expand its patch, a root first selects the squares onto which it will try to grow. Each of the 8 squares adjacent to any Briar square in its patch are selected, if they are not already in its patch. But there's an exception. If a Briar square is orthogonally adjacent to a pit, right, the root will only select the square's 4 orthogonal neighbors. It will not try to grow diagonally from that square. Likewise, if it's adjacent to fluff, same rule applies. If any of the selected squares contain mature stagnant Briar, the root incorporates that Briar into its patch and immediately looks at the squares onto which that new Briar will try to grow, and so on. Right, so it can expand onto mature Briar. Recall that immature Briar, stagnant Briar, is irrelevant. It will not be reclaimed or used in any way. Immature stagnant Briar, right, as opposed to immature Briar in a patch of Briar. At this point, we're not worried about whether the Briar will actually be able to grow into the selected squares. It only matters where it will try to grow. If any square onto which the patch will try to grow belongs to a rival patch, it prepares to merge with that patch, but does not actually perform the merger just yet. Once all the stagnant Briar that can be collected has been collected, the Briar patch expands. New immature Briar forms on all selected tiles onto which it can successfully grow. A new Briar belongs to the patch that expanded. This time, force arrows and hot tiles are respected. Briar also cannot grow onto a square owned by a rival Briar patch. Final step of the expansion is that every mature Briar square in the patch that is orthogonally adjacent to a pit now transforms into immature Briar. Okay. In the mergers phase, all Briar squares in any 2 or more patches that prepare to merge with each other are reclassified as belonging to a single patch. The character of the Briar squares does not change. Immature Briar remains immature. The Briar will visibly adjust to show the new connections, except that diagonal connections will be invisible as always. Any patch that, in this cycle, did not expand onto even 1 new square and which was not involved in a merger, now has its roots deactivated for the rest of the turn. Its roots are presumed to be blocked and unable to do anything. After mergers, if any, have been completed, if any roots are still active, we start over with a new maturation phase. The cycles continue as long as any roots are still active, and that's why if you have, like in the previous room, I guess, the previous room being... What's that? Wasn't it here? This room, as was the one I'm thinking of. Or you have a bunch of roots all connected to each other. It will expand and then recalculate and expand and recalculate and expand. I guess that's what it's saying here. If no roots are still active, Briar activity stops for this turn. Okay. Easy, simple, right? Why do I have the option of stepping here? Oh, that's to force me to keep moving so that I'm reading stuff at the appropriate time. Okay, Briar timer. This is one application of it. Usually I'm used to seeing Briar timers sort of in an isolated part of the room, but forcing you to move precisely, I suppose, works as well. Which stagnant Briar will be incorporated into the patch on the next turn? The answer is the Briar on grassy squares. Do you see why? Yep, because this is already connected. If I click on this, yeah, okay, it's not connected to any of the withered Briar just yet. Or sorry, the Briar growth. But it'll connect here, and then it'll, yeah, connect to all of that. It won't connect to this because there's a pit here, so this is only going to grow orthogonally. It'll grow across the arrows, that's no problem. There's a pit here, which prevents this from connecting. But this can still grow that way. And then here there's the Briar growth in the way, blocking that. Yep, I got it. Just before expanding, the root finds all the mature stagnant Briar that is adjacent to its patch and adds it to its patch. It does that repeatedly until there's no more to add. Can't follow a diagonal path from a square that is orthogonally adjacent to a pit, but if it can reach the same square by a different path, it can still add it. Force arrows can prevent Briar growth, but they don't prevent stagnant Briar from being added to a patch. I thought this was going to be cosmetic, but I guess there's actually quite a bit of reading still. Even this simple example of a merger requires deep knowledge of Briar logic to fully explain. On the turn that you step on the pressure plate, will Briar grow onto the grassy square or not? Okay, let's calculate this. Okay, it's not touching this, so we don't have to calculate that as well. Just this. So it's going to open. You will expand here. You will expand here, and it will be the only immature Briar that you have access to, so you'll then mature it. You're then connected to this, so you will expand. So yes, even with just these, ignoring this entirely, this should grow onto the grass in this turn. Yes, it does. Let's look at what happened in detail. For reference, the original configuration is shown to the southwest. Okay, so that's what this is. Do I want to hit this? Cycle 1, maturation phase. No immature Briar is present, so nothing happens. Okay, let's just do that to lock it into place. Cycle 1, maturation phase. No mature Briar is present, so nothing happens. Okay. Expansion phase. One of the northwest roots expands their patch, but the other cannot because there's now a square of immature Briar in it. Then the southeast patch expands. Okay. Mergers phase. Nothing happens. Although the patches are now adjacent, they do not merge because they did not prepare to merge in the expansion phase. One of the northwest roots matures a square of Briar and becomes inactive. The other cannot and remains active. The southeast root matures a square of Briar and becomes inactive. Okay. Expansion phase. The only remaining active root finds its patch is adjacent to the other patch and so prepares to merge with it, but does not merge yet. Then it expands its still separate patch, growing onto the grassy square. Whoops, I hit the wrong button there. Mergers phase. The two patches now become connected. And finally, the remaining active root matures the nearest immature Briar square in the new combined patch and becomes inactive. Which would be this one, I guess. Yeah, because it would have grown, would have matured this tile here. No roots remain active, so Briar activity is over for this turn. And this just lets me watch it again, I guess. Yeah. Are these roots in the same briar patch or two separate patches? There's a philosophical question. I could just click. It would appear that they are disconnected because it's not telling me that there are that they are connected. I guess because they can't grow orthogonally and they're adjacent to pits. Let's find out. The briar matures at only 1 square per turn, so we can see that the roots must not be in the same patch. And again, if I clicked on it and they were in the same patch, it would have shown that there was 2 briar together. When you enter a room, all briar squares are effectively in a disconnected state, and each root's patch consists only of its own square. This rarely has any practical effect, since immature briar can't be present. Each root will expand on the first turn, forming its initial briar patch at that time. If you've wondered why immature briar isn't allowed at the start of the room, this may be the reason. In order for it to be useful, there would also have to be a way to define patches of connected briar. It could be done, but it would be complicated. When briar is destroyed, it can divide a briar patch into multiple patches. Corresponding pressure plates must be pressed within 1 turn of each other. I see. So... within 1 turn of each other isn't good enough. They have to be pressed on the same turn, don't they? Because what just happened there... oh no, it's fine if it's fine if they move once because of this. Okay. So now, I guess I could count. So you're moving 3 per turn, you're moving 2 per turn, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 turns to get here. 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 turns. I think that's okay, actually. I can just do nothing, right? This will work? Yep. And then if I need them to even out, this is going to be 1, so this is... so how many turns to get to here? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21 turns, and this is going to be... how many squares? 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. So I need to do 4 weights. And now this will be 1 plus 3 for every 2, so that's 1, 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 17. This is 15, 16 of the orb now. I think. Yes, okay. Yep. Just a little bit of counting. Briar becomes stagnant when it is no longer connected to any roots. Yeah. At all times, all briar in the same patch is as interconnected as possible. You don't have to think about where connections exist and where they don't. They exist between all adjacent squares. That's why this patch continues to grow, even when the only remaining connection to the root seemingly could not have formed. Ah, okay. This is the thing I was going to do the extra demo on, but I guess it is showing it. So what's going to happen here is this. So if the briar was placed in the room like this, this would not be connected. But now because of this, it is connected because of the history of what happened previously in the room. Yeah, okay, so I don't have to go into the editor to demonstrate that then. That's nice. they covered that case. It's pretty awful, but that's just the way things are. Yep, so it's still growing because of the history of it having been connected, even though it wouldn't have been able to connect. I can see why some people don't like Briar. Fortunately, this kind of thing doesn't come up too often. When Briar is separated from all roots and becomes stagnant, it may or may not be redrawn such that it appears to connect to other nearby stagnant Briar. Pay no attention to this visual effect. As you've learned, stagnant Briar has no concept of connections. Alright, so I do that. And then you're going to hit this. Doesn't matter that this looks if it looks connected or not, is what it's saying. Okay. Demonstrations and challenges. This section explores the consequences of Briar logic. It does not introduce any new information about Briars. Everything in it can be deduced from the rules already presented. Alright, well that seems like a good place to stop for now. We finished the first two parts of the Briar entry, learned a bunch of really scary stuff about how it's calculated behind the scenes, and then we have to actually try to use some of this knowledge in the next part. That'll be something. Yeah, I will see you then.